In the modern world, being alone is considered a failure. If you eat alone in a restaurant, people look at you with pity. If you go to the movies by yourself, you feel awkward. If you spend a Friday night at home, scrolling through photos of your friends at parties, you feel a deep, aching sense of missing out. We have been conditioned to believe that happiness is a team sport. We are told that connection is everything. We are told that humans are social animals and that isolation is a punishment. And in a way, this is true. Loneliness is a disease. It increases cortisol. It shortens your lifespan. It feels like a physical wound in the chest. But there is a secret that the great thinkers of history knew. A secret that has been forgotten in our hyper-connected, notification-filled world. There is a difference between being lonely and being alone. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. Solitude is the glory of being alone. Loneliness is a poverty of the self. It means you are empty and you are looking for someone else to fill you up. Solitude is a richness of the self. It means you are full. It means you are so content with your own mind, your own thoughts, and your own spirit that the presence of others would only be a distraction. Think about the people who have changed the course of history. Isaac Newton, Nikola Tesla, Friedrich Nietzsche, the Buddha, Jesus Christ. They did not find their answers in a crowd. They did not find enlightenment at a party. They found it in the desert. They found it in a laboratory at 3 a.m. They found it in the silence of the mountains. They understood that to truly know yourself and to truly create something of value, you must step away from the noise. You must enter the void. In this video, we are going to explore the lost art of solitude. We are going to look at why society is terrified of silence. We are going to hear from the philosophers who championed the hermit life. And we are going to show you why your fear of being alone is actually a fear of meeting yourself. To understand the power of solitude, we must turn to the master of pessimism, Arthur Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer was a German philosopher in the 19th century. He was brilliant, he was wealthy, and he was famously grumpy. He lived alone with his poodle, and he rarely had visitors. But he wrote extensively about the relationship between intelligence and sociability. He argued that a man's sociability is inversely proportional to his intellectual value. In other words, the smarter you are, the less you want to hang out with people. Why? Because most social interaction is boring, it is repetitive, it is filled with small talk, gossip, and complaints about the weather. Schopenhauer believed that ordinary people are terrified of boredom. They are empty inside, so they run to other people to distract themselves from their own emptiness. They use conversation like a drug. But a man of intellect, Schopenhauer argued, carries his own entertainment inside his head. He is like a man who brings his own piano to a party. He doesn't need the external music. He has a symphony playing in his mind. For Schopenhauer, solitude was not a punishment, it was a privilege. It was the only state in which a human being is truly free. When you are with other people, you must compromise, you must be polite, you must wear a mask. You lose a part of your individuality to fit into the group. As he wrote, a man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. Now let's look at another giant of philosophy, Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a solitary wanderer. He spent his summers hiking in the Swiss Alps, completely alone, writing his masterpieces. He didn't just tolerate solitude, he worshipped it. He saw society as a herd,
a mass of people who all think the same, act the same, and believe the same things. The herd hates the individual. The herd wants to pull everyone down to the average. Nietzsche believed that to become an Übermensch, a Superman, or a higher human being, you must leave the herd. You must go up the mountain. In his book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the prophet Zarathustra leaves his home and goes into the mountains for 10 years. He speaks to no one but his eagle and his snake. It is only in this isolation that he can hear his own thoughts. It is only in the silence that he can birth a new philosophy. Nietzsche warned that the path of solitude is dangerous. When you leave the herd will attack you. They will call you weird. They will call you selfish. They will try to shame you back into the fold. But he said, the individual has always had to struggle from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Owning yourself. That is the core of the philosophy. In a crowd, you are owned by the group. Your opinions are influenced by the group. Your emotions are contagious. In solitude, you reclaim your sovereignty. You become the king of your own mental kingdom.
So why are we so afraid of this freedom? Why do we panic when the Wi-Fi goes down? Why do we fill every silent moment with a podcast or a song? Because silence acts as a mirror. When the external noise stops, the internal noise begins. You start to hear the thoughts you have been suppressing. You start to remember the regrets. You start to feel the anxiety about your future. You start to question if you are truly happy. This is uncomfortable. In fact, it can be terrifying. Blaise Pascal, the French mathematician, famously said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." We build entire industries to help us avoid that room. Movies, video games, bars, social media, they are all distraction machines. They are designed to keep us looking outward so we never have to look inward. But here is the paradox. The more you run from yourself, the lonelier you become. You can be at a party with 50 people, drinking and laughing, and feel completely isolated. Why? Because you are not there. You are performing a role. You are showing them a mask, and a mask cannot be loved. True connection, true intimacy can only happen between two people who are comfortable in their own solitude. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke defined love as two solitudes that protect and border and greet each other. Think about that. Two solitudes. If you cannot be alone, you will use people as a crutch. You will use them to prop up your fragile ego. You will be needy. You will be possessive. You will demand that they make you happy because you cannot make yourself happy. But if you are content in your solitude, if you are full, then you enter a relationship to share your fullness, not to take theirs. You become a person of depth. Depth requires time. It requires focus. It requires deep work. Cal Newport, a computer science professor, argues that the most valuable skills in the modern economy require long periods of uninterrupted concentration. Coding, writing, analyzing complex data, composing music. You cannot do these things while checking Instagram every 5 minutes. You cannot do them while chatting with coworkers. You need to enter a state of flow. And flow happens in solitude. This is why the great artists were often recluses. Michelangelo locked himself in the Sistine Chapel. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter in cafes, ignoring the world.
They understood that creativity is a jealous lover. It demands your full attention. If you are constantly plugged in to the hive mind, you are consuming other people's thoughts, you're reading other people's tweets, you're watching other people's videos. You are a consumer, not a creator. To create, you must disconnect. You must stop the input so the output can begin. But there is a danger here. We must be honest about the dark side of solitude. Too much isolation can lead to madness. Human beings need a balance. We need the dichotomy of isolation and integration. If you stay on the mountain forever, you become weird. You lose touch with reality. You become like Howard Hughes, locked in a room, terrified of germs. The goal of the hero's journey is not to stay in the special world. The goal is to go into the cave, find the treasure, and bring it back to the tribe. Nietzsche's Zarathustra eventually comes down from the mountain. He returns to the people to teach them what he has learned. Solitude is the laboratory where you refine your ideas, but society is the marketplace where you test them. You need both. But right now, the balance is broken. We are 99% society and 1% solitude. We are drowning in noise. We need to swing the pendulum back.
So, how do we reclaim the power of solitude without becoming a hermit? How do we learn to be alone in a world that demands we be connected? It starts with digital minimalism. Your phone is a portal to the crowd. As long as it is in your pocket, buzzing and beeping, you are never truly alone. You are carrying 1 million people with you. You need to practice unplugged solitude. Start small. Leave your phone at home and go for a walk. Just 20 minutes. At first, your brain will panic. What if someone needs me? What if I miss an email? Let it panic. Keep walking. Look at the trees. Look at the sky. Feel the air on your face. Without the constant dopamine hits of the screen, your brain will start to slow down. It will enter the default mode network. This is the state where daydreaming happens. This is where problem solving happens. You might find that a solution to a problem at work suddenly pops into your head. You might remember a beautiful memory from childhood. This is the gold that is hidden in the silence. The second practice is the solo date. Once a month, take yourself out. Go to a movie alone. Go to a nice restaurant alone. Go to a museum alone. This is terrifying for most people. They think everyone is judging them. But remember the spotlight effect. Nobody cares. They are too busy worrying about themselves. When you go to a museum with a friend, you are focused on the conversation. What do you think of this painting? Where should we eat later? When you go alone, you are focused on the art. You can stand in front of a painting for 20 minutes if you want. You can cry if you want. You can hate it if you want. You are having a direct experience with the world, unfiltered by someone else's opinion. This builds confidence. It proves to your subconscious that you are enough. You don't need a chaperone to exist. The third practice is journaling. Journaling is a conversation with yourself. When you write down your thoughts, you are externalizing the internal noise. You are taking the chaos of your mind and giving it structure. Many people are afraid to be alone with their thoughts because their thoughts are messy. They loop. They catastrophize. Writing breaks the loop. Sit in a quiet room for 15 minutes every morning. No phone, no music, just a pen and paper. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? What am I afraid of? What do I want? Be honest. Nobody is going to read this. This is shadow work. This is how you integrate the parts of yourself that you have suppressed.
When you do this regularly, the silence becomes less scary. It becomes a sanctuary. You start to crave it. You start to realize that the most interesting person you will ever meet is yourself. Solitude is not an escape from life. It is a dive into the deepest part of life. It is where you find your values. It is where you find your voice. It is where you find God or the universe or whatever you want to call the source of creativity. Do not let the world shame you for wanting to be alone. If you prefer a quiet book to a loud party, that is a strength, not a weakness. If you need to disappear for a weekend to recharge, take that time. The world needs more people who are comfortable in silence. We have enough noise. We have enough opinions. We have enough influencers shouting for attention. What we need are thinkers, creators, visionaries. And visionaries are born in the quiet. So turn off the phone, close the door, sit in the chair, and say hello to the stranger in the mirror. Now, once you have mastered the art of being alone, you might start to notice something strange. You might notice that despite your competence, despite your intelligence, you still feel like a fake. You feel like a fraud who is about to be exposed. This is a very specific psychological phenomenon that affects high achievers. If you want to understand why you feel like an imposter and how to finally internalize your success, click the video appearing on your screen now about imposter syndrome. I will see you there.